So, in 1995 it was hot in Chicago. In fact, it was so damn hot, in the span of 5 days, 749 people died due to the heat. When the authorities actually tried to step back and figure out what the hell happened, they were completely flummoxed. The problem actually defied logic in the thing. Couldn't blame it on lack of air conditioners necessarily. Couldn't even necessarily blame it on entirely on lack of money to plug in the air conditioner if they did have an air conditioner, which wasn't the case in a number of situations. In fact, they found out that in many of the neighborhoods, many of the people who died effectively through social isolation. Because there were incredibly high crime rates that forced them to keep their windows shut. And that there was a preponderance of heat islands. Most did not have a transformer parking arrangement, but yes, in many of these neighborhoods, there were so many things that were sucking up heat that their neighborhoods were many degrees warmer than that of perhaps wealthier neighborhoods. Currently, I am working as a consultant with this architecture firm, Randall & Baker Architects, that for the past 25 years has been doing affordable housing in these underserved communities. And the heat wave of 1995 really represents kind of this rethinking of how we approach community redevelopment. And Randall & Baker has realized that although housing is great, it's one of the most fundamental needs that people have, it cannot solve all the problems in the neighborhood. And so what we've been working through is trying to figure out how do we work with our community partners to identify new ways of tackling and identifying issues in neighborhoods. Say hello to Shade Lab. What the hell is Shade Lab? Shade Lab takes the spontaneity and the excitement of really super talented, super inspired young adults, taking that spontaneity and that excitement, using that to actually diffuse what's often very tense community situations. It takes advantage of their incredible perceptions. They know what's going on around them. They see what's broken. They know it's there. Combine that with their incredible industriousness and high-tech sensors, such as the City Sense Pod, and uses them to actually take measurements, do environmental wellness audits of neighborhoods. So in this case, taking carbon monoxide readings throughout a neighborhood, doing interviews of key people in the neighborhood, and just people that are passing by, observing what's going on. Maybe they're elderly people who are using the playground equipment to stay in shape. And then beginning to make correlations, beginning to overlay this information, these stories, the CO2 readings, to begin to make connections between this, perhaps, and this, or even this. Why are all these people congregating under trees? How does that affect how we approach community design? How can we make a better neighborhood by starting to correlate some of these things together? And maybe even beginning to just inform people. What is the impact of that planting that tree in the neighborhood? And then using that to actually make both small and large suggestions for improvements that will improve the overall health and well-being of the neighborhood. Simplest of things, but it can actually go much larger into actually creating user cards, for example, for telling people how to better use their buildings so that they're not letting in excessive amounts of CO2, or how they can retrofit them to lower their energy bill. And ultimately, by information is power, and by placing this information in the hands of people in the community, you actually are allowing them to better make and participate in the decision making that actually impacts the design of the community. So why am I here talking to you? Well, the gathering of that information, how we gather it, is really key. On one hand, there's some really high-tech options. Biomapping, to use the galvanic sensors, plug them up, hook them up to people, and have them walk through neighborhoods. And when there was stress, you get these peaks. So you can actually visually see what areas of the community stress them out. There's the Feral Dog Project, where they took cast-off toy dogs and put VOC sensors in their noses, rewiring them and then releasing them on areas to actually find the highest VOC concentration. There's the Grassroots Mapping Project, where Jeff Warren went into underserved communities and worked with them to make their own personal satellites using balloons, kites, cast-off digital cameras to actually make maps that would allow them to validate the boundaries of their community. Or there's black cloud. You have this, you made this box of soy to measure. There's simpler ways too.
I was going to say, thumbs up.
Thumbs up. So,
like, give me pictures.
Sure. So, I would like you over the next year, perhaps, if it's a growing project, to help us potentially think through some of these things, how we measure, take advantage of your expertise. Your game, let's chat. The last image I'll leave you with as we segue into the next person. Just look really closely. This is a totally active program. So.
Very cool.